see, and we're going to read Psalm 34 in a second, but listen. David had two choices, and David has the same two choices that you and I have. And that is that we can either worry or we can worship. That we can either worry or we can worship. Now, how many of you have seen the effects of your worry? We've seen the effects. But how many of you have seen the effects of your worship? The peace that comes over us, the calm that comes over us, the way the Lord just manifests His presence, no matter how bad the situation is, we know it's going to be all right, because when we worship Him, we have the promise that God abides in the midst of the praises of His people. When Jesus is standing next to me, I know no matter what, it's going to be all right. Psalm 34, these are some of the things that David begins to say as he chooses to worship instead of worry. He says, I will extol the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. My soul will boast in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Glorify the Lord with me, and let us exalt His name together. David's in there alone, but he's calling out for more people to come join him in his cave. How many of you know that worship is contagious and praise is contagious? I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. How many of you know that worry just compounds more worry and more fear upon itself? But how many of you know that worship comes and soothes you from your fears? And David says, you know what, I was in this cave, I came up with this crazy plan that didn't work, I'm afraid running, but I sought the Lord, He answered me, and He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to Him are radiant, they're no longer covered with spit all over their face. But those who look to Him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. This poor man, and he's talking about himself, called, and the Lord heard him. He saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear Him, and He delivers them. Who knows? We don't know. Maybe even the Lord allowed David to see some angels camping outside at the front of the cave. We don't know. We'll ask Him when we get to heaven. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in Him. Fear the Lord, you His saints, for those who fear Him lack nothing. The lion's meat may grow weak and hungry. Once again, who knows? Maybe he walks in there and there's a lion in there. The lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Whoever of you loves life and desires to see many good days. And here's where David is learning his lesson. How many of you know it's a good thing to learn your lesson? David says, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking lies. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and His ears are attentive to their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are crushed in spirit. A righteous man may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones, not one of them will be broken. Evil will slay the wicked, the foe of the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems His servants, no one will be condemned who takes refuge in Him. How many of you can say amen? Amen. And I want you to understand this as I give you one more thing to write down just before we go to the second sacrifice of praise that comes with the cost, is this. David is still in the same cave. Okay? But David starts seeing things different. How many of you have ever been in the same situation, but all of a sudden you start seeing things differently? That's because, write this down, your praise affects your perspective. You hear me now? Your praise affects your perspective. You start praising the Lord, and you're going to see things differently. You start worshiping the Lord, and you're going to start seeing things differently. Number 2, sacrifice of praise comes with a cost. Especially number 2 when we're talking about financial sacrifices. And I heard a few in God's house. You know, the context of what we're going to read in 2 Corinthians chapter 8 as you turn there. Some of you better students are already there because you had it in your notes, Sister Carol says, amen. I'm already there, brother. The context of this offering, the context of this story is that Paul is collecting an offering for the Jerusalem church that is suffering. They're persecuted. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their jobs for two reasons. They've lost their jobs because they're Christians, but also some of them are actually even losing their jobs because they're Jewish, because Rome has such a tight grip, and Rome is bringing in different people from different nations, and Jewish people, Christian people are losing their jobs, and especially Jewish Christians, and they're really suffering financially. And so Paul is going around and he's taking up an offering for the Jerusalem church. And different churches are getting hold of Paul and saying, hey, we'll meet you somewhere. We want to collect an offering and we want to donate to the Jerusalem church. And there's a small church in Macedonia, and they're actually known to be a poor church. But they contributed, and Paul is bragging on them to the Corinthian church. And now, brothers, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. Out of the most severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. They urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the saints. And they did not do as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then to us in keeping with God's will. So we urged Titus, since he had earlier made a beginning, to bring also to completion this act of grace on your part. In other words, Titus was going to go out there and collect the offering. And he's saying, but as you excel in everything, because the Corinthian church was known especially for spiritual things. They had a lot of prophets, a lot of miracles. People moved in the spirits greatly there, in the spirit, and the gifts of the Spirit. And so he's telling them, but as you excel in everything, and he starts mentioning some of them, in faith, in speech. They had some great speakers there, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in your love for us. See that you also excel in this grace of giving. Are you with me? Paul's saying, man, you guys have some great preachers. You know, how many of you like hearing Pastor David Jr. speak? And then if I'm not here, how many of you like hearing Pastor Elaine speak? And then if Pastor Elaine's not available, and how many of you love hearing Pastor Oscar speak? And we're blessed with some pretty decent speakers here. And Corinthian church had a number of good speakers. And the Corinthian church, you know, there's always somebody speaking in tongues, and there's always somebody bringing a message, and there's miracles, there's all these great things going on. Paul says, but you're lacking in one thing, and that is, you need to learn how to give. You need to learn how to give. And how many of you know it's not always easy giving? Okay, can I share something with you? Statistics show that December is the lowest giving month in churches across America. Take a wild guess why that is. Because we want to celebrate the Lord's birthday. Well, we're going to celebrate the Lord's birthday. Let's give to the Lord the month of His birthday. Is anybody with me?